to the Red Dirt Road Podcast. Jock Hamster Wheel here with Xander Pizza Eater.
Yes.
How's it going, my pizza eater friend?
How's it going, Jock? Been a while since I used that name.
I'm gonna start throwing in some names, maybe names that are kind of random, maybe some names from the past. You never know. I'm gonna start throwing that in there every now and then.
Oh yeah.
The Pizza Eater. So Xander, obviously coming from your first name, Pizza Eater. Is there any? It basically was just because you like pizza a lot, right?
Yeah, basically.
All right, pretty simple. So you had picked my name, Jacques Hamster Wheel. What's real quick? Uh, we'll get right into this Morgan Wallen album. But for the listeners out there, why did you name me Jacques Hamster Wheel as a child?
I don't know. As a child, I was looking back on it. I liked the name Jacques. I thought it was a very unique name.
Because
And
I
I don't.
think Jacques came from Jacques Cousteau,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
believe.
Jacques
But
Cousteau. Yeah.
but hamster wheel, that's more what I do not know where the hamster wheel came from. I never had
I
a
I
hamster.
don't know where the hamster wheel came from either. Actually, looking back on it, I don't exactly remember where it was that I got that name, and I know that is the name for your Mii. You have a Mii still on our Wii, Nintendo Wii,
Oh
and
man, I
every time
forgot
my
about
sister
that.
plays, uh, you still see that character Jacques.
That's so funny. I didn't even. Wow. Yeah, I right when you said that, I can picture what it looks like, but I had forgot about that. Going to be going through each of the songs from the Morgan Wallen new album from January 2021. It is Dangerous, the double album, 30 songs. It's like over an hour and a half long. Much awaited. Morgan Wallen came out with an album in 2018. It was really big. Nothing like this, nothing, double album, but people really liked it. And he's just grown and grown since then. Came out with a few singles, but it's been a good couple years, over 2 years, like 2.5 years since he's came out with an album. So let's get into our best and worst songs on the album. So I guess I'll go first. My worst one, I got a couple, but it's pretty obvious, and this might be your worst one as well. "Wondering About the Wind." Not a good song. Did not like it. Didn't know what the heck they were really talking about. Um, I think their ideas for that song kind of went out the wind with that. I don't really didn't really understand it. Didn't capture my interest. Now the best song, if I was picking the best non-single, I'm not really sure. It might in fact be "Quitting Time" or "Me on Whiskey." Those would have to be some honorable mentions. So as far as the actual album cuts, probably "Me on Whiskey" or "Quitting Time." But if I had to pick one out of as far as the whole album, that's a tough one. Definitely "More Than My Hometown," "Cover Me Up," and "This Bar" are some really really good songs. Hard to pick one song, but if I had to pick one, I think "Cover Me Up" is the most, best songwriting. Obviously, Jason Isbell, great song, and it goes really really well with Morgan Wallen's voice. I really like the other two songs as well, but I think that the "Cover Me Up" one is going to be one that I will enjoy and many people will enjoy for a very long time. So that's my top one. So I'm going to throw it over to you. Best, worst songs on the album.
Well, I mean, I think you got to say "Wondering About the Wind" is definitely the worst song on this album. Although I got to say that "Country Ass Shit" and "What You Think of Country Now" do take a pretty close second and third because I didn't really like those songs at all. I didn't think that, and I mean, I just think that "Wondering About the Wind" and it's maybe I can't think of anything else really other than maybe the Rednecks, Red Letters, Red Dirt. I'm not sure. But in terms of the best songs, I mean, again, you could pick any of the singles from here. Although my favorite, at least my favorite anthem from this song is definitely, I'm sorry, from this album is definitely Beer Don't. Beer Don't is definitely my favorite non-single. I gotta say, and or Silverado for Sale. Even though I did admit that Silverado for Sale needs a little bit of work, I think it's my favorite non-single. Then you have definitely More Than My Hometown. That's the single from there, um, and then Wasted on You. I think that's a good one. Wasted on You, Seven Summers, and like you said, Cover Me Up. Those would be my favorites.
So what do you top song? What are you picking?
I'd say it's going to be a close tie between More Than My Hometown and This Bar. I think, in my
There's some good
opinion.
ones. Yeah, yeah. I mean those are really good. Um, Going with Cover Me Up, but yeah, no quorums there. Those are all good. All of the singles are good. So now let's actually get in to this album. Not talking about one song or another. How we actually thought about this album. I guess I'll take it first here. We can kind of go a little bit back and forth. But I got a little something to say because I'm a pretty big Morgan Wallen fan. Started listening to him in 2018. He sort of came on the map, on the radar before that with that Florida Georgia Line song. Well, the song with Florida Georgia Line,
Up down.
Up Down. Very, very, very good song. But I didn't really hear him until 2018 after he came out with that album and just kind of listened to the singles for a little while. But then I listened to the whole album and really enjoyed it pretty much right away. Was one of the only kind of new country artists I really like. I've liked basically all the singles that have came out and was really excited to hear that this album was coming out. I am extremely disappointed with this album. I am not gonna sugarcoat it. I think, man, am I disappointed for an album that has 30 songs. It. Here's the thing: you're gonna have some bad songs. If there's 30 songs on an album, that's. I mean, it's literally a double album. If it came out in CDs, it'd be a two disc. And 15. That's 15 for each album, which is more than a lot of albums even have in one single album. That being said, it was really clear, that the type of music they wanted to produce with this was just sort of radio music, stadium country music. I mean, it has that country pop feel, but even more, it just sounds like some kind of mainstream, nasally country music that I do not enjoy at all. And it kind of, I've been telling people about Morgan Wallen for a while now. People have been saying, oh, country music is dead, as far as new country music. And I've been saying, hey, look at these guys. Look at Luke Combs. Look at Riley Green. Look at Morgan Wallen, John Party, as far as the mainstream new country artists. I got to say, Morgan Wallen, he's going back to, they're not going back, but this is sounding like a mainstream country artist that's something that I don't listen to, some other Joe Schmo. So this is terrible for me. I mean, you got a few in this out and the singles in this I really like. Quitting Time is a good one. Me on Whiskey, but the majority of this album, I think it was clear, the record label. I'm not going to put it really on Morgan Wallen because it's whoever's producing this. It's just the songs, they all sound the same. I mean, some of them don't have the greatest writing, the country ass, whatever it is. Some of them are kind of boring, but to me, my problem with it, they all sound the same. They're all just this loud music putting into it. It don't really sound unique. I'm extremely disappointed, To be completely honest with you, I'll throw it over to you.
I think that's a fair assumption because I honestly do think that too. I mean, I'd agree with you there. I think that I'm utterly disappointed because and I blame myself for expecting that this was gonna be good. I really do because I thought this was gonna be unbelievable. Because it's been his first album in a very long time, and to think this was 3 years in the making. This All these songs were recorded between 2018 and 2020, didn't make the cutoff to be released in 2020. Was decided to release it in 2021. I mean, to think that this is 3 years worth of work to be put into this is pretty disappointing, and I feel bad. I feel sorry for Morgan Wallen because I know that a lot of this stuff is not on his end. It's largely what the record company thinks will sell, and it's unfortunate because this is what they think will sell, and in my opinion, I mean they're utterly mistaken. Like if but again, like I understand a lot of people don't share our same tastes in music and stuff, but this and I mean, it does have good singles. It does have some good content on it. It's not horrible, but it is disappointing for something that they've worked so hard on producing, and it finally comes out. All the hype that was led up to it, they teased it with the good singles. I honestly think that they released the entire album before it even released. Like all of the good songs on the album were released before the album was even released, which is one thing that I really do hate about record companies sometimes. They'll literally release everything of substance on an album before the album even comes out, which sucks. And that's what they did in this case, I think. Because, but I mean, it's not totally on Morgan Wallen, and I do feel I feel bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if it got mixed reviews. I'd be really surprised if it went platinum or went gold or something like that. For, but I think that they did, like you said, returned to like tried to sell this sort of monotone, monotonous like stuff that is just not very creative. And additionally, I didn't really like the hip hop influence on this album. A lot of pop and a lot of stuff that they want to try to get on like pop music stations. Something I wouldn't even expect to hear on like WGAR in Cleveland or something like that. Or even like Sirius XM, one of the country stations. I wouldn't even expect to hear that. And
Yeah,
I do stand by this. Like when I turn on the highway, that's the modern country music radio station on Sirius XM. I hear a lot of this. Not like exactly the same thing, but it sounds so similar, and it's unfortunate. I feel bad, but I think that this is not all that Morgan Wallen has to offer. I think ultimately in the future, I think you'll have other albums that will do better than this. I hope.
yeah. I don't know what the reviews are on this album at all. I obviously it's not came out very long ago, about maybe 2 weeks ago since when we're recording this. I don't even think 2 weeks. But Grady Smith is a cool. He's a cool country music YouTuber. I don't know if you know him. He actually reviewed this album. I have not watched the video yet. I'm gonna have to go check it out. But yeah, something happened with Morgan Wallen, and I don't know if he got a new record company. But along the way, I mean, he had a song like "Chasing You" is a fantastic song on his last album, and that one's not a real loud song. Whiskey Glasses was a super popular song, a little bit louder here and there, but it's still the song, kind of breathed. But Chasing You, phenomenal song. And you look, and that very popular as well. You look at this album, nothing like that on this album. And that's a song about women, many songs about
Yeah.
women on this album. I don't honestly, I'm kind of speechless that the album was this big and they missed so much. I know that the album probably did really well as far as the initial streams because it was I mean, this is one of the biggest country artists, um, biggest mainstream country artists right now is Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs. And so it was a very anticipated album. A lot of people like him. But as far as the actual, what people think of it, I'm not really sure. To me, it's a very disappointing album. Morgan Wallen's a guy. I mean, my dad, for instance, is a guy that has often put down new country, and I've tried to show him Luke Combs and Morgan Wallen, and said, hey, these guys, they're not half bad. This is not an album I would show him, and be like,
No, absolutely not. I think you're right.
he would he
I
would
would
say
never
this
show
is
this album
terrible.
to your father. He would, it would just prove his point. And
And
I think, although what I will say, it is certified. This album, I just looked it up, is certified platinum by Music Canada, so it's doing well in Canada. We know that. Uh, hasn't been certified anything by anything in the U.S., but
well, it hasn't been out for very long yet,
yeah,
so that'll be a while. One thing I will say though about the hip hop influence in the country, I actually don't mind if you have a song here and there that actually fully embraces the country hip hop. I don't mind that. I mean, if you're gonna do it, go all out. Kind of have a cool style on a few songs. That's okay. You don't have to be true
hmm
to country through and through every song. But the problem is that every song that he has in this album is kind of just like, eh. It's just kind of like country, but we're just turning this generic country music, a little pop, a little hip hop, and it's not doing anything
yeah.
for me.
Well, I
Not
mean,
doing much.
and one of the things I'll say about that, a lot of country music nowadays has turned electronic. They've kind of abandoned the sort of traditional instruments and gone more for an electronic vibe with a snap beat or a clap beat behind it. And it's okay to do that a couple times, but then the issue is you have a lot of people who they get one single that sells unbelievably well, that goes double and triple platinum, and then all the record companies want that, so they oversaturate the market with stuff like that, and that's what I think is happening now. And I mean, this is a perfect example of it. That sort of mainstream kind of mediocre. And again, it's not horrible. It's not horrible from a mainstream country music lens. It's not horrible. Not a horrible album at all. However, it's disappointing solely because it's Morgan Wallen. I expected a lot more from Morgan Wallen. I wasn't expecting this from Brett Eldridge, not putting down Brett Eldridge, but one of those mainstream
Taking
guys.
shots at Brett
But
Eldridge here.
no. But I, I would have expected it more from from others that are trying to make it big. Because
Well,
Morgan Wallen is already big,
I think the
and
other disappointing thing is not just that, but it's also this. So, like you said earlier, that last album of his came out, I believe, May or April of 2018.
mm-hmm.
So it's been, you know, over 2.5 years since his last album,
And
and
songs from
this,
that album were still doing well in 2022, which was
yeah,
unbelievable.
and so you look at it and you go, okay, you had all this time to make this album, let's hope it's good. And then the other thing is, like, there's 30 songs on here, so when you're a Morgan Wallen fan, you're sitting here thinking like, this guy's not going to come out with music for another 2 years. I mean, this is all you're getting for 2021. It
And
just,
2022, most likely.
yeah. I mean, maybe next year you get a single, but as far as this year, this is all you're getting, and you're not getting an album for a while. And so to me, it's like, is this an album where I'm going to be pulling up on Spotify playing a bunch of songs? No. I
Dude, the worst part about this is that honestly, this is all you're going to hear over the radio for the next 6 to 8 weeks, because the record companies are going to push it and try to get it to sell. And I mean, again, it's not horrible, but it's going to be over. It's going to get tired. I never got tired of Morgan Wallen's old album. I think his old album is still hot right now. And I mean, and I think a lot of Morgan Wallen fans would agree with me on that. But this is, I mean, and again, it's not abysmal. It's just really disappointing
yeah.
from a standpoint of something we were waiting so long for.
It's not just, let me I know we keep going on and on about this, and I don't want to just take up a half hour here criticizing this album, but I just want to tell everyone the magnitude of this. I mean, this album to me is a turning point for mainstream country music. I mean, you have the biggest, you know, basically tied for biggest country artist, mainstream country artist right now. He comes out with an album. What does it sound like? It sounds like this. I mean, that's kind of like all other albums after that are going to be looking at this. You look at John Party. I mean, guys like that have made progress from the early 2010s when we had this pop country, this bro country. And, John Party, I think it was his 2016 album. It's got songs like Heartache on the Dance Floor. That's a decent song, but it was a very pop influenced album. And then his album in, I believe, 2019 was much more true country, 90s country. Heartache Medication, Ain't Always the Cowboy. I encourage listeners, go listen to that. So that's a big time country artist that came out with an album in 2019, and it was like, this is like country. This is legit country. This is what, I mean, George Strait practically. I mean, this is obviously not Hank Williams,
Yeah.
the first here, but George Strait, Mark Chestnut type of music.
Yeah.
And then this is what we're getting. I'm so
There-
disappointed.
there's
I
a
hope
re-
I hope
yeah.
Morgan Wallen, I hope this is not influenced by him. I hope he's still got the gifts there and leaves this record company or whatever the hell and turns it around. And that's
Yeah.
all I got to say. I think we've made our point.
What's disappointing about this, he did not. You mentioned him switching record companies. He didn't switch record companies. This is the same record company that released If I Know Me in 2018. Now, I will say this. There's a reason why Brooks and Dunn chose John Party and Luke Combs to do their covers of their songs. And there's a reason why they believe in those guys. And I think, I still believe in new good country music, which is why I'm constantly listening to like the new hot country playlist just to see what's on there. I mean, and if it sounds like something boring, I'm just gonna skip it because it's not even worth it. But like, I'm optimistic for the future. I think it's looking up in spite of the fact they had a little bump in the road. I think that there will be more Morgan Wallen music that we will be able to talk about in a positive light. And I mean, there is some material here that we can say is pretty good, but I think for the future, I think it's only going to go up. I think.
I hope so. I mean, this is a conversation for a whole nother podcast, but it's interesting to me how music has progressed, especially country music, and how pop influenced it's gotten. And I think that there is actually a specific reason for that. I've told people that I know of why it's gotten more poppy over the years. And I do think in due time it will start to get less and less poppy. I hope, and I think that. And a little teaser here. I'm gonna save that for another episode though, as far as why I think that, because it might not be what you think. But that's kind of based on how our world has changed, how we listen to music. We'll have to be looking at. So until next time, Red Dirt Road Podcast.